introduction. I'm going to turn this call over to the one and only finance doctor. The gentleman has a PhD in finance and economics. So you understand why I told you to stay put. So I want to definitely turn this call over to the one and only finance doctor that's going to give you your RX for Forex, Dr. Craig Bythewood. Dr. Bythewood, are you on the line?
Yes, I am, Miss Dyer. How is everyone doing this wonderful pre-Tuesday before the day of thanks, the day of appreciation, the day of gratefulness? So tonight is going to be a little bit different on a talk with the finance doctor because we're going to have to go off camera. It is what it is. Basketball season is basketball season. So I'd like to jump in by, first of all, thanking Ms. Tasha M. Dyer for a wonderful training as always. And let me introduce this call to those of you who are new to our Be Your Own Bank movement. This call is called a talk with the finance doctor because this is an intimate conversation between you and I where we have an opportunity to take advantage of the fact that personal finance is the only area of our society where the individuals that provide you information about the product just happen to be the same individuals that sell you the product. So what a wonderful opportunity we have to be able to ask any question that exists that deals with your personal finance. And to me, when we have conversations like this, we turn personal finance into economic empowerment, where we can be in control of the data. We can understand exactly what's going on. And if you think about it, that is what the Be Your Own Bank movement is about. One of the things that we know for sure is that banks are very aggressive about controlling infrastructure. So the more we learn about how to manage our money and how to take full advantage of this opportunity to reach another level of wealth and abundance with this vehicle, then the better we are for ourselves and even more importantly, for our families. Just for a second, think about what that 11-year-old is going to be like when he's having conversations with his children. Think about what that 11-year-old is going to be like when he's having conversations with his peer groups that may come from cultures or families or regions that have never had a conversation about any of these factors and these concepts. So what a beautiful thing. What a beautiful situation we're in where you and I can have a conversation about high level concepts and they become a part of what we do. So with that in mind, I want to let you know that if you have a question on tonight's call, you are going to walk in the power of the unmuted microphone and simply let us know what your question is. So tonight, I'm going to talk about compounding as I stated in the chat, but prior to doing that, let me pause and see if anyone has any questions, comments, or testimonies.
Yes, sir. This is Sonia. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. I'm the person that had the question last week, and I really got it right. But first, I must say thank you so very much for your wisdom, your knowledge, and just for what you do for us as a people.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it, sir. And may the blessings of the Lord be upon you and the group, Miss Dyer and Mr. Ross, and all our family. I call this the family. Now, let me get this my question in.
Okay.
What I wanted was to ask you last week is that no, not a question, just a statement. My husband and I, we built our home in 1999. At that point in time, we had borrowed like say $180,000 from the bank, and we had an interest rate of 2.5. 2008, we refinanced, and we got like say $30,000, $40,000. Now over the years, the home, it has a lot of equity, and right now it's worth over 800 something $1,000, and we only have 214,000 now with the market that is going down. What is it recommended that we refinance now to get a lower interest rate, not taking any money? We just want a lower interest rate. Is that a recommended uh, situation?
Okay, there are a couple of things that we need to find out, a couple of more variables that we want to focus on. Now, those of you that are not her, those of you that are listening to this, I really want to give you a tip on how to listen. It is not about my answer. What it is about is the process that I'm going to go through to analyze the relevant variables to come to a conclusion. Because one thing that we know for sure is that no person, no matter how expert they are, can recommend to you what you should do for your situation. However, there are plenty of individuals that can help you to walk through the necessary variables so that your cost benefit analysis, so that your pros versus cons will be in the best situation. So a couple of questions for you. Here's my first question. You said that in the 2000s, you refinanced and you said what you saved. When you refinanced, you stated that your original interest rate was 2.5. So when you refinanced, what was your interest rate refinanced to?
4.75.
Now, I want everybody to really, really dial into what I'm about to say. I've often said that the two most dangerous words in personal finance are "I heard." Because when someone else is telling you what they think you should do, especially if that individual is connected with the financial institution that you're discussing, we have to learn, as I stated a couple of finance doctors ago, to ask the second set of questions. Now, it's so interesting because I really did forget about this question, but it fits right into what we're saying so much. Now, she said that she did the original loan at 2.5%. But then she said she refinanced and she saved money, but the interest rate was higher. So let's just for a second, let's pause and resist the temptation to jump into the answer. Well, this is why it happened. This is what, let's just relax through the process. Because the more we understand the way these variables work, the more power we have in not just answering this question, but answering every single question that we have that's anything like this. So let me give a little bit of background. There are three variables. There are three variables that make up the payment in a loan. There are three variables that make up the payment in the loan. If you want to take notes on this, that will be fine. But watch this. After we finish having this conversation and then backing it up with compounding, I'm going to give you an actual financial calculator that you can put on your phone so you can do these kind of calculations. But let's walk through the process first. Three variables. The first variable, very easy. The amount of the loan. The amount of the loan. Now, what is the amount of the loan? Well, she said that the house was $280,000. So it could be that $280,000 is the amount of the loan, but sometimes institutions require a certain amount down. So let's make it very easy. The amount of the loan will be either $280,000 or it will be $280,000 minus whatever down payment they ask. Now, I know that us having a conversation like this is far superior than the way in which the financial institutions do it. Because what they do is they talk around all the variables and tell you, we'll have to tell you later, and we have to find out, and we've got to go through underwriting. And then they tell you that the signing is at 4 o'clock, and they have to give that room up at 4:15, and they give you 55 pages that you have to sign all in 15 minutes. So you never have an opportunity ooh, an opportunity to ask the questions that we're doing in this form where we're all family. So the first variable is the amount of the loan. The second variable is the amount of time. What do you mean by time? Well, we know that in this scenario, most loans are done on a monthly basis, monthly payment, monthly mortgage, monthly car note, monthly credit card payment. So the second variable is the number of months. So I said there are three variables. We've already done two. I thought you guys said amortization of loans was hard. This is pretty easy so far. There are three variables. The first one, price of loan. The second variable, the amount of time. How many months will it be for this particular transaction? Now, the third and final variable is this, the interest rate. In this situation, the 2.5. Now we have enough information from her to know how to figure out the first three variables. All we have to do is assuming she did not put down a down payment. And if you did, it's okay. We're just going through an exercise so we all understand. If she did not put a down payment down, then 280,000 would be the amount of the loan, which in terms of a financial concept is called the present value. And then the number of payments or the end or the number of time or the maturity would simply be 30 years, assuming it's a 30-year mortgage, times 12, 360. How easy is this? First variable, 280,000. Second variable, 360. The third variable is interest rates. Now, I want you to hear me. Walk away with this concept because I guarantee you a financial institution would not explain this to you. Well, interest rates are done in this country, in the United States of America, not in all countries, but in most countries, on an annualized basis. Here's the proof of it. APR. APR. What does the A stand for in APR? Annual. Annual percentage rate. So that means that we've got a little bit of a disconnect. What do you mean? Well, the interest rate is annual, but the amount of time is monthly. So I have to make these two variables equivalent. The financial calculator that you're going to download at the end of this call will do it for you, but we just want to understand the logic. So we take the annual interest rate and we divide it by 12. Why do we divide it by 12? Because there are 12 months in a year. How about this? You know how to do an amortized loan. That's it. It's the amount of the loan, it's the amount of time, and then it's the interest rate. So you take those three variables, you put them in a financial calculator, or if you're sitting at the bank, they'll put it in a spreadsheet, and then it kicks out the final variable, which is simply the payment, the payment, the payment. We're done. For the rest of your life, you know how to take control of the process of any amortized loan because that's how it works. The amount of the loan, the number of periods, the interest rate. Use those three variables and ask the question, what is the payment? Now watch this. If this wise young lady, why is she wise? Because the word says there's wisdom in seeking counsel. If this wise woman had a $280,000 loan, and then she had 2.5% interest, and she had a certain amount of months, then a decade later, she increases her interest rate, but saves money. There's only one way that could happen. That is because they started her loan over with an extended amount of time. That is, I wasn't, how do you know that, Dr. B? You weren't there. I wasn't. But I understand the variables. And that is why I talk with the finance doctor is so valuable, because we can talk about understanding the variables without anybody selling us anything. So if her rate went up from 2.5 to 4%, the only way she could save money is if they extended the time, they pushed it out further. So before we get to the question of, is it advisable for me to do this? We have to understand what has happened. We have to understand what went down. Now, hear me. Observation is strength. Judgment is weakness. Let me say that again. Observation is strength. Judgment is weakness. It is not my goal to determine whether or not she did the right thing. It is my goal to understand what she did. Now she's in a situation where she's asking the question, should I refinance? Well, just like I had to break down all those variables for us to understand what happened, to answer her question, we've got to go deeper and find out what they want her to do now. Now, there is one other variable that I did not mention that I will mention now. Banks want you to refinance. Why do they want you to refinance? Well, I love to use this example. If you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend and you're not happy with that boyfriend or girlfriend and somebody's interested in you, what are they going to do? Are they going to say, well, you should stay with that boyfriend or girlfriend? Of course not. They're going to say, hey, why don't you come on over here? I'm going to treat you right. I'm going to do some things that this person may not do for you. Y'all remember that Joe song, What He Won't Do for You? Oh, I didn't mean to go there, y'all. I'm sorry. But bottom line is this. The bank knows you've got a girlfriend. The bank knows you've got a boyfriend. You're already involved with a bank and you're giving the bank all your interest. So guess what? They want your interest. Girl, can I get your interest? Come on, give me your interest. So the bank wants to get you to refinance with them. So they're going to say to you, hey, I want to save you money. And you can be saved money. But let's understand the nature of the game. Don't hate the player, hate the game. The reason why I want you to refinance with me is because then I have access to your interest payments instead of your current boyfriend or your current girlfriend. But let's add this variable. In order for you to refinance, the bank is going to charge you an amount. They're going to get paid. And we don't look at the payment, we only look at the savings. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with, say, paying $5,000 to refinance and then saving $30,000 to $40,000. That's not my point. My point is we want to ask the second set of questions. Why? Because when you make a decision to have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, guess what you're going to do? You're going to pick the best one. But because banks don't tell us that we have to pay for the refinancing, because banks simply put it in the paperwork that you only have 10 minutes to sign because they put you in that position, you don't ask that question. So you focus on the savings, but what if two banks are offering you refinancing? What if two banks are offering you refinancing? And what if Bank A is going to charge you $10,000? And what if Bank B is going to charge you $3,000? That's a significant difference. All I'm saying is you won't even have the opportunity to analyze that because they won't tell you. So now I get to the question. Now that you have this opportunity to refinance, I need more. I need more. The question is, do you recommend that I do it? Give me the variables. Tell me what's going on. What are they asking you to do with the interest rate? What would the new interest rate be? What would they do with the amount of time? Will they start over? Will they continue the amount of payments? Give me some details so we can break this down and decide what's best for you. So my first question is this. What will be the new interest rate in this refinancing offer that they're giving you? Ma'am, are you there?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. What would be the
Sorry.
new interest rate for the refinancing?
Well, we have not really decided to do it.
Okay, I'm
We
sorry.
just listening to you, and I told my husband that let's hear more. We have not gone, as I said, we only have $214,000, and we have this
What does
high.
that mean? What do you mean you have 214,000?
That's what we owe on it right now.
Oh, that is the
114,000.
amount. That's the amount that you owe on the house. Okay.
Right, but it's
And if you
worth
don't mind
over
me
eight.
asking, what? I'm sorry.
No, but it's worth over 800,000.
That's right. You
So we
said
have
that.
a very high. Yes,
So
yes.
let's talk about that real quick. We have some young people on the call, and we want to make sure that we all understand how this works. So if she has a house that is worth $800,000 and she owes $214,000, that means that she has what is called equity in the home. What is equity? It's a fancy word for ownership. It's what you own. If I have something that's worth 800,000, but then I owe 214,000, that simply means that my equity is based on the difference, the 600,000. Of course, I'm that's not an accurate calculation. It's just an estimate. So the 800,000 minus the 214,000, that's the equity she has in the home. So she has access to be able to have to borrow against that equity and or refinance. So again, there's no way I can answer that question for you without having access to the variables. So you're saying I need to decide and then I'll find out the variables. The finance doctor is saying find out the variables and then you can decide. Remember the example about one bank charging 10,000 and one charging 3,000. I need to know what is the refinancing fee. And I'm going to tell you this. When you ask the first person you speak to in reference to this refinancing, what is the refinancing fee? They're going to have zero idea what it is because that's something that the financial people do, but they just set it up so that you don't have access to that right away. But all you have to do is ask enough people and you'll get the answer. And one of the things I like to say when people say, well, that's not important, this is what's important. You're going to save this amount of money. As I recognize that if I'm paying you, if you're working for me, then I decide what the questions are. I always say it respectfully, but that's the position I take when I'm dealing with any institution. So you work for me. So I'm going to tell you what variables are important rather than you telling me what variables are important. So I need to know what it would cost to refinance. I need to know what the reduced interest rate would be. I need to know whether it's advantageous for you to borrow against the equity or to refinance. I need to know that if you refinance, what will the new maturity be? So to put all of this in perspective, actually let me stop and have you to respond to what I've said so far.
Sorry, I was trying to make sure that you're hearing me because you're going in and out.
I'm
Well,
sorry.
can you repeat again for me? Because
I said
I'm
I
having a
wanted to
little.
give you an opportunity to respond. Are you still
Well,
having? Okay, go ahead.
just listening alongside my friend here, um, I don't even think this is something that we should do. Knowing that, as you said, we should find out what is the new interest, what will be the new interest rate, and what is the reduced amount rate will be. In our mind, we're in my mind, and he's listening. If we made it this far over those years, and we handled it, we're all at the end of the road, 200 something thousand. I'm with BYOB. I am a master. Might as well I just, stay more focused, get my 777 and pay off for this house. I won't even think of going to any bank or any institution to let them give us any type of decision. We are going to make the decision, dive into the BYOB, get the money, and pay off for this house.
That is so funny, Sharon, because I was just thinking to myself, boom, and then you typed it. So please let's walk away with this concept. The concept I want you to walk away with is the answer, her answer, my answer, our answer is less important than the process that we walk through. Because it is new to some of our families, to some of our cultures, to some of our areas to be able to ask these kind of questions and have power over the data and be able to dictate to the institution what questions we want to ask and what answers that we want. So I hope that everybody really took that away. Now, I had plenty of things I wanted to say about compounding. I probably won't get to all of them, so I promise I'll pick up on this after Thanksgiving, but I do want you to walk away with something tangible. So if you look in your in the chat, I put access to an app. So this happens to be Apple, but you can get the same app if you have a Droid. You can even get that same app on your laptop. Now, hear me. It does not matter which app you use. I just happen to like this one. Every other app that you can get that is free, that is a, hear me, financial calculator. Financial calculator will allow you to do the same thing that this one does. This just happens to be my favorite. I find it to be user friendly. Well, I tried to find that one. I didn't find it. That's fine. Use the one you find. So with that in mind, I'd like for you all to literally open up this app right now, and we're going to talk about how we're going to take this concept that we just talked about with her, and we're going to learn how to do it ourselves. So rather than having to allow the bank to dictate to us what the numbers are, we can dictate the numbers to ourselves. Now, we're talking about a mortgage, but I want to make sure that everybody recognizes that what we're doing right now, we can analyze this for all loans, for all loans. Most of the loans in today's society are done in a process that's called an amortized loan, amortization. Amortization is a process that everybody on this call already knows. How do I know that? Because I explained it to you. Amortization is where you take the amount of the loan, the amount of periods, and the interest rate per period. Let me say it again. The amount of periods and the interest rate per period, and you put those three variables in a financial calculator and you find out what they are. Now, in a minute, I'm going to tell you how to do it, which is extremely easy. We've already done the hard part, which is understanding the logic. When you put those three variables into the financial calculator and you solve for the payment, if you were to take the payment, and multiply it by the number of payments, if you were to take the payment and multiply it by the number of payments, the number that you would get would be much larger than the amount of the loan. Let's take that concept and make it real. She just gave us an example of a house that was $280,000, okay? Actually, wow, I just thought of an even better example. I didn't think about this until just now. She said she bought that house in the 90s. And she said she's been paying on it and she refinanced it. It's been 20 years. And 215,000 of the 280,000 still needs to be paid. You're right. She did say it's worth 800,000. That does put her in a very good position. It does give her leverage. But think about that for a second to see the beauty of Ms. Dyer's point to you. She said we're so comfortable with compounding out, but we need to be comfortable with compounding in. So in over 20 years, more than 20 years, she's only reduced the value of the loan from 280,000 to 215,000. So back to my original point. If you take the amount of the loan, the amount of the payment, you take the amount of the payment and you multiply it by the number of payments, it would be so much higher than 280,000. So as we're running out of time, let's make sure that we at least get this done. And prior to me teaching you how to do this calculation, let me share with you something about Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein said, compounding is the eighth wonder of the world, because he understood how much additional money can occur when you make what is called interest on interest. Now, are you making interest in a Forex account? No. But every time you make a profit and you put that profit back into the account, and now that profit begins to earn a return, that is what the compounding is. So I want you to open up this app. I'm assuming that everybody has downloaded the app.
Dr. Bythewood.
Yes.
Pardon my interruption, but since we are not having a call on Thursday, I want you to be as free as you need to be. So, don't worry about time constraints, because
Deal.
This is so important.
Deal.
So just be all right.
I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
So I want everyone to download this app. I gave it to you in terms of Apple, but all you have to do is look at the name of it. I believe it's EZ Financial Calculator. So if you have a Droid, if you have an Apple, all you gotta do is click on the link and download it. If you have a Droid, just type in easy. Actually, if you type in if you type in financial calculator, it'll be the first calculator that comes up. It's very popular. Again, to me, it's the best free one. So download this app, and we are now going to walk away with the power to be able to answer these types of questions. Watch this. Before we go to the financial institution, we're going to be able to answer these questions before we go to the financial institution. So what I want you to do is, when you get to the app, I want you to open it up, and there should be several sections. And one of the sections inside the app, and let me say this, if you have a question, just unmute your mic, because I will not see the chat. So open up the financial calculator app, and you will see a section that says TVM, or time value of money. Now, this is just a fancy way of saying anytime you do any kind of calculation that involves time, then it is considered time value of money, where you're taking interest and you're equating dollars that occur today and in the future. You don't have to understand that at all. You know why? Because you're holding in your hand a cell phone that has multiple apps that you use on a regular basis, but you never ask how they're coded. You never ask how it works. You just click on it and use it. So we're in a position now where all we have to do is click on it and use it. So when you click on this financial calculator and you go into TVM, or time value of money, you will see variables. And the variables will be PV, which I talked about before. PV stands for present value. That's the same thing as the amount of the loan. Why is it called present value? Because when do you take out the loan? Now. Can I prove it to you? When you go to buy a house, anybody who's purchased a house before, when do they give you the keys? After the loan goes through. When you go to buy a car, have you ever known anybody, because I have, known anyone who got to test drive a car and they told them to take the car home and hold it overnight? Then when they found out that the loan didn't go through, boy, you got 20 calls every 5 minutes. You need to bring our car back. So the reason why it's present value is because the loan happens now. It happens now. And then you're going to have another variable that represents the amount of time. So I'm going to be honest with you, because I'm in a vehicle, I'm not looking at it right now, but it will be very easy for us to be on the same page. So there is a variable that represents the number of periods. I believe it's a P or PER or the word period, but it just represents the time. So we're going to actually do this young lady's mortgage amount right now. So for present value, which again is the amount of the loan, put in 280,000. Then for the number of periods, we're going to put in 360. Why 360? Because it's months. Now hear me. There's a drop down arrow. There's a drop down arrow underneath the time, and it says different time periods, where monthly is one of them. So you have two choices. Please hear me, because I want you to understand the logic. We don't memorize anything. We internalize. We don't memorize. We internalize. We don't memorize. We internalize. So when you click down that drop down arrow, it'll say daily, quarterly, monthly. You have two choices to put the number in for time. Choice one, make the drop down be annually, and then you put in the number of years, which is 30. Or you can make it monthly, and then you put in the number of months. Please let me apologize. I said that backwards. Either you're going to put in the number of years, which is 30, and then do the drop down for monthly, which will make it 360, or you use it for annually, and then you put in 30, which is going to be the number of years. The bottom line is that when you finish doing this calculation, it should come out to be 360. So it's either going to be 360 months, or it's going to be 30 years at a monthly compounding. Whichever one you do, the number will come out the same. But by understanding both components of it, we have power. We understand how amortized loans work. And understanding how compounding out works makes us understand better how compounding in works, and we'll understand why this vehicle is so valuable. The third variable is the interest rate. Same thing. You're going to put in the interest rate, and she told us it was 2.5. So you put in 2.5, and then there's another drop down arrow that says monthly. So you have three variables inside of the financial calculator right now. 280,000, which is the amount of the loan or the present value. You have the number of periods, which is 360. You have the interest rate, which is annual, but it's compounding monthly. The annual interest rate is 2.5. She gave us the data, just like the bank can, and we're simply putting it in our calculator. Now, all you have to do now, you've done the hard part, all you have to do now is press payment. When you press payment, it's going to give you, hear me, a negative number. Now watch this. Why is the number negative? Watch this piece of understanding and comprehension. There are always two sides of a transaction. There's always two sides of a transaction. If you do a transaction and you spend money, somebody else is receiving money. If you do a transaction and you're receiving money, somebody else is spending the money. So the negative number just implies the fact that if you bring in $280,000, then you're going to kick out negative, you're going to pay out that monthly payment. So I would like for someone to do that calculation for me and then put in the chat what number they came up with for payment. I'm only doing that to make sure we're all on the same page. So what is the payment when you put in 280,000 for the present value, 360 months for the time, and 2.5% divided by 12 for the interest rate? Okay, now, it's not going to be both. So it's probably, we get all these different answers. Bless your heart. It's just like my real classes. So, young lady who is, okay, make sure when you do this calculation that, because we should only have one now. No, it's not 280,583. So what we're doing is we're putting in 280,000 for the amount, the present value. And then we're putting in 360 for the months. And then we're putting in 2.5%, 2.5%. And then we're dividing that, or we're doing the drop down that says monthly. That 1,106 looks like that might be correct. I really wish I was in a position to do this myself, class, but we're just going to deal with what we have. Now, somebody take 1,106.34. Here's how we'll check it. Take 1,106.34 and multiply it by 360. Take 1,106.34 and multiply it by 360. And what do you get? Take $1,106.34 and multiply it by 360. So there it is. $398,282.40 is larger than 280,000. That's compounding. That's compounding. The bank is compounding the interest on her loan. Therefore, they're making $400,000 on a 280,000 loan. Nobody's mad at them. That's what capitalism is all about. We just want to empower ourselves to understand how this works. So like Ms. Dyer said, that was a jewel she gave you. We're comfortable with compounding out. This is an example of compounding out. We want to be comfortable compounding in. So compounding out means that if I give you an opportunity to purchase a house for $280,000, then I'm going to give you an opportunity to pay me $400,000. Let's please add to this calculation that in 2008, When she refinanced, they gave her an opportunity to extend the loan even more. Remember, how do I know that? Because they raised her interest rate, but she paid less money. The only way she could raise her interest rate and pay less money is that it started all over, which means the amount of amortization and the amount of compounding was even higher, especially if it was the same institution. So hear me. This part is so important. We are not anti-bank. We are pro-household. By understanding all of the ways in which we are paying compounding in our lives, and trust me when I tell you, we're just scratching the surface of it, we now want to put ourselves in a position of strength where we can do the same thing. Now, you got to hear me on this. You have to hear me. Our ability to powerfully benefit from compounding is even better than the banks. Because guess what? The banks are doing it monthly. That's 12 times a year. There are 221 trading days in an average year. There are 221 trading days in an average year. So their compounding can only happen 12 times. We can do it 221 times. That's why I love her answer, because we didn't even have to go through the process. I wanted to go through the process. I'm a financial nerd. But she was like, you know what? Never mind, finance doctor, because I have an opportunity to enjoy the BYOB cash out strategy. And with the BYOB cash out strategy, I'll knock out this $215,000 and make it a non-issue. So we want to understand that we have been compounding out, but now it's time to compound in. Praise God. Questions, comments, testimonies.
Let me say thank you very much. I really appreciate just the bring down and the more knowledge and wisdom that I've gained. And I am sure this has benefited all of us who are listening. And for that, I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you.
You are absolutely welcome. Questions, comments, testimonies.
Doctor, I just want to tell you that I'm praising God with you, because here we are, another rung on God's glory ladder. This has been phenomenal. If I had only known it a few years back, but thank God I know it today. Going forward, I want everybody I know to know this. I can't tell it enough. Thank you, doctor. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You are very welcome. Questions, comments, testimonies.
Dr. Bytewood, this is Dornetta Payton out of Fort Worth, Texas.
How are you doing, Miss Payton?
I am well. Thank you very much. I felt like I was back in college with the math request there. But listen. I want to tell you how phenomenal I think it is to be up under your tutelage and everything that you had to go through. I'm sure it was many nights you wanted to not continue going to college, but when I listen to you and the passion that you have behind the knowledge that with this stuff, it is amazing, because compounding out and compounding in, oh my God, whenever Miss Tasha Dyer showed us what it looks like to compound in, my eyes got so big and I was like, oh my God, I never even looked at it like that. And I'm a tax professional. I have my own tax business. And when I saw all of that compounding in, I thought about my house, I thought about my car, I thought about how many people was making money on me. So thank you tonight. Thank you for sharing this knowledge with us. I've got this calculator and I'm gonna make sure my sons, my husband, and everybody else has it before they make a decision. Thank you, sir.
You are very welcome. Thank you for that testimony. I really do appreciate it. Any other questions, comments, or testimonies? Okay, well, thank you very much for attending our pre-turkey session of A Talk with the Finance Doctor. Mr. Rogers, do you have some final comments for us, sir?
Wow. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, this is why I stay jacked out of my mind from the front to the back. When you have the opportunity to sit at the feet at two generals such as the Tatsa M. Dyer, the trade whisperer, and uh, the finance doctor himself, Dr. Bythewood. Folks, I just want you, as we are heading into this season of Thanksgiving, truly, 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 in your heart and in your mind, I need you to drop a 555 in the chat if you are thankful that God would allow you to sit and hear this information this evening. I really want you to appreciate the fact that, think about it. Ms. Brownlee said that had she known, but this is why we take this so serious, because we are now watchmen on the wall, and it's our responsibility to sound the alarm of the lives of the people that are coming behind us. This is why it's such a necessity for us to be benevolent. No judgment, just the fact that people need to hear this information in a non-confrontational environment, such as you get an opportunity to experience. I just want to know, in the midst of our celebrations, no matter where they are, how they're happening, who is with me, knowing that you have a responsibility to share this information with your friend, neighbors, and relatives. If that's resounding with you in your heart right now, I need you to drop a 333 in the chat. So 1 million families financially educated and impacted, and I too am in tremendous celebration for the fact that I'm thinking about myself. Had someone had the opportunity to share with me at the age of 11 what the gentleman is experiencing, can you imagine? Can you guys imagine why such a time as this you've been called? And I know I'm belaboring the point, but I want this to be so meshed in your heart and in your mind that great information, the grace that you and I are recipients of, how much more should we be adamant about ensuring that the people that we care about need to be exposed to this information? I mean, what Dr. Bythewood shared with you, myself, I've been in the mortgage industry for over 25 years, and this is how it's done. And now you are equipped, empowered, no matter what the scenario is, to make the decision on how you engage in this process moving forward. So once again, to my business partners, I salute both of you. I'm so thankful and grateful that God has chosen the two of you to have global impact. But most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, for the rectangles, you're now responsible for reproducing this information. Go give it away. Be thankful. Be fruitful. Multiply, because you've been seasoned to have dominion. And I don't know if you got an opportunity to listen to our broadcast today, but Bishop Harold Rollison dropped a nugget. And he said that sometimes when people think about Adam, they see it from a perspective of what he didn't have. But Adam was born into wealth. He was over every resource in the earth. And that means you are the seed of Adam. So wealth truly is a part of your birthright as well as your heritage. Adam was wealthy. He was over every aspect of every resource in the earth. So when the scripture says the earth is the fullness thereof and the Lord owns everything, that means by you being in this earth realm, you were born wealthy. No matter what your current condition is, you were born wealthy. Wealth is in your DNA. So walk in your wealth and abundance. Happy Thanksgiving to each and every one of you. We love you and we appreciate you. And I'll turn this call back over to Dr. Bythewood.
So thank you for that, Mr. Rogers. Here's a little follow-up. Some of you got some answers that weren't the same as the other people, and we know why. When you start doing math, when you start doing things like this, some of that old energy creeps up, and some of y'all got some tight shoulders and some anxiety kicked in. I get it. But now that we know the answer, we know what the payment was supposed to be. It's like back in the day when you would look in the back of the book. So those of you that know you already have the answer, please play with it back into the right process, because this is a skill you can use for the rest of your life. Now, I will talk more about this when we get back, but I just want you to think about this, the power that you have. Whenever you go to borrow money, to buy something that requires loans, they always ask you one question: what payment would you like to make? And because you tell them that variable, they manipulate the other variables. And if the amount that they want to sell you is different than the amount that goes along with the payment you chose, then they'll make you pay the difference and they'll call it a down payment. So I said all that to say this: look at how much power you have, because now you can figure out how much you want to pay, and you can figure out how much you how long you're going to pay for it. And you can figure out what the average interest rate will be based on market interest rates. So if you start off with the payment you want, the interest rate that you think you'll get, and the time period, you can solve for the loan amount. And then you can go to the car dealership or go to whatever the housing scenario is, and you can say, I would like to buy this amount for no more than this amount. Now you've got power. And what if you made that amount a little bit lower so you'd be able to handle taxes and be able to handle tax tag and title if it's a car? So I just gave you the power to be able to control every single financial, assuming that you even decide to go through financial transactions, because your BYOB cash out strategy results may make it that you never have to go through this again. But you may decide you want to utilize your leverage and maximize your ability to be able to loan, to borrow, to borrow and to loan. But having access to this information can be powerful. So if you got the incorrect answer, please go back and figure out how to do it. Well, I tried to figure it out and I didn't understand. Well, come back next Tuesday and ask me about it. There's no grade here. All right, think about it. Our grade is our wealth and abundance. Our grade is our ability to be able to do for our family. Our grade is to be able to cause a generational wealth transfer. So you don't have the luxury of deciding not to ask. Come to this call, get the answers to these questions, and let's change the game. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you for this call. Thank you for this information. Please allow everyone who heard these concepts to apply them in their lives, to teach them to their children so that they can truly be their own bank. We are thankful, we are appreciative, and we are grateful. Everyone have a wonderful Thanksgiving. This will officially end this call.